inspire the next generation in leadership. I'm Kate Save. The Inspired CEO starts now. Welcome to the Inspired CEO, where each episode we explore the innovative wellness practices that are driving success and longevity in the modern business world. In this episode, we discuss innovative technologies shaping e-commerce and supply chain with one of Australia's longest serving female CEOs. Joining me now is Maria PALAZZOLO, CEO of GS1. So thank you for coming in today, Maria.
It's a pleasure, Kate. Thank you.
And your career has spanned 20 years, well, beyond 20 years, but 20 years with GS1. Now, you would have been at the helm of all of technology changing over these years. Can you tell our viewers today about what is GS1 and what is this career that you've served 20 years for so far?
Thank you for the question. Actually, I might just correct some of that information.
Yes.
I've been CEO for 22 years at GS1, but I've actually been with the organisation for 42 years.
Wow!
So I was with the organisation when scanning stores in Australia almost were non-existent. So right in the very early days of the original barcodes coming into Australia, and then retailers starting to look at, well, what are we going to do with these barcodes? How can we benefit from having barcodes on the product? So I've been there for the entire journey, basically. So it's been so much fun though to watch and to watch the innovation and certainly the benefits that all industries have now achieved and will continue to achieve going forward as well. So it's been very, very exciting. So
tell us about the start of this journey. How did you start at GS1 42 years ago?
Well, I think to appreciate it, you need to understand that it was a very small organisation consisting of 2 people.
Oh, right.
Yes, it was very tiny, and I was a stay-at-home mum.
Yes.
And really just wanted a part-time job to sort of fill in the days in between school hours. And I saw this job advertised, and hence went for the interview. And very quickly decided it wasn't for me because I actually had never heard the word barcode, and so I didn't know what they were talking about.
Yes.
They kept talking about this, and at the time you couldn't call it a barcode, you could only call it a symbol, because barcode implied some kind of conspiracy, and so it wasn't allowed. So it was called a symbol. So because I had no clue what they were talking about, and I thought, well, I don't know what this is, so I really don't.
You can't look it up on the internet.
No. And so I wasn't interested. So I really wanted to just run out of that interview very quickly, but. For some reason, the guy that was interviewing me was quite determined that I should give it a go, and he convinced me to do so, and I did that. And it wasn't an instant love at first sight kind of relationship with GS1, because it was so new and it was so foreign. And there wouldn't have been very many people back then that would have known very much about it at all. Yeah. So it was something that was it was kind of an unknown technology. Today, of course, we're so familiar with it; it's everywhere. Yes. And how could we live without barcodes today? But back then, governments didn't like them, because they did see it as a bit of a conspiracy by retailers to hide the prices from consumers. So there was all sorts of activity going on in government circles to actually legislate that barcodes would be illegal. So that was happening in the background, and at the same time, retailers were interested, manufacturers were seeing what was going on in the US and in some parts of Europe, and they were interested in what was happening. So why would Australia not also be involved in this new technology? So it was a very difficult time to get over all the politics that were happening, all the negative press that was happening. Yes. There was a lot of negativity also because the technology had not been tested in Australia.
Right.
So there was all sorts of conspiracies about the red laser beams that were coming from the scanners that were affecting the health of the checkout operators, or they would affect the health of the checkout operators. So the unions got involved,
yes.
And were trying to stop it as well. So it was this crazy world that I found myself in.
And not coming from a tech background
not
whatsoever.
At all. No, at all. But I don't know why, and I'm not quite sure why I stuck it out, because it was really, really hard to juggle all these different conflicts that were happening at the same time. But something about what was happening caught my imagination, and I became more and more interested in delving deeper into, well, what is this technology? What is it? And of course, we're not about the technology only. We're all about actually the identification system behind the technology,
yes.
right? So getting to know that. So I started to train myself.
Right.
Because I couldn't go anywhere to get trained.
No, you're at
myself.
the helm of this.
Yes.
You're right at the forefront.
Right at the very beginning.
And how big is the team at this stage as it's starting to progress?
So we've got about 207 staff now,
yes.
And we serve about 23,000 companies in Australia.
Gosh.
So globally, of course, there's thousands of companies that we serve, and you know, we have, well, we claim at least that there's at least 10 billion scans every single day around the world.
My goodness.
And I'm not sure how we measure that, but I think it would be fairly true, because it's not just scanning that happens in retail stores and at the checkouts. You need to realise that around the world now, complete warehouse systems and distribution centres all actually operate on the basis of scanning barcodes on the cartons, scanning
yes.
barcodes on the pallets. So,
yes.
so when you put all of that together throughout all of the supply chain,
there's a lot of data.
It's a lot of data, but supply chains don't operate without being able to scan all the different barcodes, all at different levels. They just don't function. They stop. So there's a lot of activity that takes place because the barcode is scanned at point one, and it's not just putting those products through the supply chain, but it's also the reordering process, the fulfillment process at the store level.
Yes.
All of those things happen, right?
Yes.
Because the barcode is scanned, and therefore it triggers the fact that you need to reorder your stock levels. You need to reorder that product because now you've reduced your stock levels by the quantity.
And so tell us about this new technology, these 2D barcodes that are just coming out in Australia now. How will this change the landscape again? And what does this mean? What is a 2D barcode?
Okay, so now we go from, we've just celebrated 50 years of the first barcode being scanned, and at exactly the same time we've launched pretty much what comes next, and where do we go for the next 50 years. And what's been launched is a global program where we're rolling out the transition of the current linear barcode, so the barcode that we're all familiar with, that's called a linear barcode. Yes. The transition of that to a 2D barcode. Now, what's a 2D barcode? So the QR code that you're very familiar with, and everyone is very familiar with, and certainly through COVID we all became very comfortable with QR codes. That barcode itself is a QR code, and it's from a family called a 2D barcode. So there's many other 2D barcodes, but they all kind of look the same. Little boxes, little dots and dashes within the boxes. And by 2027, there's a global program that's asking all retailers around the world to be able and capable of scanning that QR code at point of sale. So today all the scanners in a retail environment scan the linear barcode. They will have to be updated to be able to scan QR codes at point of sale. Now why? Why are we doing this?
You've achieved so much in your career, and now you've thrown this big challenge to change the way it's done.
That's right. But there's very good reasons for it. Okay, so the change is first and foremost that QR codes and 2D barcodes generally allow lots and lots of other information to be put into the barcode.
Yes.
So today you've just got your standard identifier in that barcode. A QR code will allow you to put things like use by dates or best before dates or batch numbers. Now, from a retailer perspective, that's fantastic information to be able to control their stock levels, to have stock rotation, to reduce food waste, as an example, and lots of other enormous benefits that they can derive from being able to get all this additional information about the product. And they can sell the product before the use by date. And so instead of putting prices down because you know it's reaching its use by date, they can make sure that they rotate those stocks, that the product is sold earlier. So there's lots of benefits from a retailer perspective. From a manufacturer perspective, they also can use all of that data to do very much the same sorts of things in their own organisations, but they can also add additional information like, say, serial numbers or other data that they might want to know about the product. But now comes the magic bit.
The consumer part. What can we do with this?
The consumer part is the magic bit for me, because it now introduces the consumer to a whole other level of data about the product that they want to purchase. That
so marketing type material.
You can have marketing material, of course. You can have marketing material, you can have recipes, you can have whatever you like. But more importantly, it introduces the ability for URL to be put into that barcode so that it takes you to a website where you've got nutritional information, allergen information, sustainability information. How do I recycle this product? What do I do with the top? What do I do with the bottle? All sorts of data, pretty much limited by your imagination as to how much information you can put into that barcode. That will help the consumer make a very informed decision about the product that they're going to buy. And that's something that they've not had at their fingertips before.
I love being a dietitian that you can put all of that information about not just the ingredients and the allergens, but you can tell people about the benefits of the product.
Absolutely.
You can talk about the ingredients specifically rather than listing them.
Exactly.
What are they doing? Why are they in the product? So that ability to really separate your product from someone else's.
Yes, and you need, as a brand owner, you need to consider about, you know, brand loyalty.
Yes.
Now, if I'm a consumer and I can go to product A and look all that information up because the brand is happy to provide that information to a consumer, then I can start to trust that brand. If I try to buy brand B that doesn't have any of that information available to me, I can't access it because it hasn't been provided. Then I start to question, well, why? Well, you know, why does brand B not want to give me that information? So from a marketing perspective, there's lots of benefits to being able to provide that data to consumers and to be transparent as a brand owner to your consumers as to the fact that, you know, you're proud of the information that you're going to give them because you're proud of the product.
And that interaction, I mean, it doesn't just stop there. We have interactions with brands every day, whether that's through social media, through e-commerce platforms. So being able to get that when you pick up a product just through the what looks like a QR code, that is actually a 2D barcode. But you've had such a busy career. How have you managed family life, personal life, and your own health? What does that look like for you?
Yes. I have to be honest and say I'm not a very good role model. Work-life balance isn't so balanced for me.
That's okay.
It never has been.
Yeah.
I come from a generation of females in the workforce having to do it hard.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's just the way it has been. I'm not going to qualify it or justify it. It's just the way that it's been, and that's my story.
Yes.
And I've been very fortunate, you know, to have a family that's been very supportive. But I feel like I've missed out on a lot of family time with my family. I try to make up for it a little bit more now that I have grandchildren.
So beautiful.
And when I do spend time with them, I try to be in the moment. You know, I don't answer phones. I don't get distracted because I just want to be in that space, in that moment with them. But it certainly has not been the case throughout my career, and I probably regret not doing it differently. And that leads me to be very hard on some of my executives to make sure that they don't fall into the same traps that I did. And I insist that they take leave, and I insist that they, you know, look after their health and do things with their family, and, you know, not hang around the office late at night. And I'm, you know, I ensure that is part of the culture of the organisation, that family really must come first, and well-being, looking after your own well-being is very, very important.
That is incredible leadership, and you literally will be changing the lives of anyone who's watching this that has any regrets, and you are absolutely an advocate for finding that balance and advocating for other people too. So thank you so much for the interview. So this is Tick Ticker and we'll be right back.
You're watching Ticker. We'll have more in just a few minutes.